Welcome to the Ideagen Global Summit, live here at the American Psychiatric Association Foundation in Washington, D.C. Today, I am honored, privileged to be here with my good friend, Marcus Smith II. Marcus, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I
Thank
appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, you're leading the way, Marcus. It would be remiss on me if I didn't mention the Super Bowl. Seahawks, you're a happy man. They're going to the Super Bowl. I'm also happy Patriots are going back. So Drake May, it'll be a great Super Bowl. You know, it's amazing. You know, but on a more serious note, you've spoken openly about the identity loss that can follow peak performance moments, especially as I just alluded to in professional sports. Marcus, what helped you rebuild a sense of self beyond the helmet?
Yeah, I think for me, especially with what you just asked, I think I had to realize that I was a human first because we play a barbaric sport, which is football. I've been playing the game since I was 5. So you have a lot of athletes who've been playing their sport since they were young. So their identity is kind of wrapped up in their sport. And so you kind of have to peel the layers back and say, well, who am I outside of the sport? And so what I did was I had to step away from the game, and then I had to do therapy on myself and kind of go back to the young Marcus, the 8-year-old Marcus, and realize who the real Marcus Smith was. And so I think a lot of athletes out there, if they're trying to figure out their purpose, why they're living, you know, a lot of men want to figure out their purpose, why they're here on this earth. I think it's really just scaling back and just taking a step back and just trying to figure out who you really are. And I think that's where you'll find your true purpose, and you'll be able to find your identity as well.
That's extraordinary. The 8-year-old Marcus, it makes sense. You know, you read a lot about, you know, what it's like to be fearless as a kid before all of the societal pressures kick in, right? And you're free. You're free to think. You're free to imagine. You're free to play. And that all starts to go away as you get older. But if you can rediscover that, you get back to a place where you're truly empowered.
Yeah.
And that's what you're referring to. And look, you've played at the highest levels in the NFL for some of the greatest teams that exist. And you're right. I mean, having that perspective is so absolutely critical. When you work with athletes, students, or executives like you do every day today, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you still see today in 2026 around mental health and perhaps most importantly around toughness?
Yeah, some of the common things the common denominators that you see with executive athletes, people who are just at the highest height, is that their mental health doesn't matter, right? Because you've been able to get to this point. Well, why do you even care about your mental health, right? Or you have some people maybe in their family or people that they're close to, like you're doing everything that everybody else would love to do. Like, what could you possibly have problems with? And I think that's what the misconception is. It's like, regardless of if you're an executive, you're at the top of your game, but it takes a lot to get there, right? It takes a lot of sacrifice to get there. And sometimes with that sacrifice comes anxiety, it comes depression, it might be PTSD, whatever it may be. I think it comes with a level of pressure that people just don't realize, you know. And I think if we start to humanize that and we start to look at the important things from that, I think people will see, you know, the top executive, the athletes in a different role because, you know, we're human too. We operate at a high level, but we have issues sometimes too.
Right, right. And you've described mental wellness as a daily practice, not a destination. What does that look like in real life for real people operating in these high pressure situations?
Yeah, I think a daily practice is positive self-talk, and it may be journaling, and it may be going to therapy, right? I do therapy once a week. Why? Because I want to stay in tip top, right? We don't have to get to a place where we're in a place where we have to go to a doctor and something happens to us, right? We can be very proactive with our approach. And I think that's the best way to do it. It may be just going out for a walk every day. It may be working out. Sometimes, as athletes, we like to be in a place of working out because that's what we did, right? So the same thing with your owners and your executives. You have to find something that really makes you happy and that fulfills your spirit. And you want to continue to do that over and over again.
And it's so interesting. The next topic is really storytelling.
Yeah.
And everybody has a story. Every single person on the planet has a story. We don't often know what that story is. And so sharing these lived experiences, changing the way teams and organizations engage with mental health compared to the traditional programming that we all have is what you're describing. And I want to take a moment to thank you. To thank you for all of the people that you're helping across the planet with everything that you're doing now and all of your dedication to mental health and mental health awareness and being mentally tough and working closely with the American Psychiatric Association Foundation. I mean, you're leading the way. But I want to ask you the question. So what is different now?
Well, for me and for our company, the things that are different, I think now we're just trying to partner with the APAF, Ideagen, to actually make true change. That is the difference, right? Because at the end of the day, we're now in a place where we've done the talking. We've spoke to a lot of people. We've been in places to be able to bring awareness, right? Now we're about the solutions, and I think that's the change now, and you're starting to see it. It's slow, but you're starting to see it, and I think that's all you can ask for. You could just see like some of the younger kids as well, like they talk about mental health, right? I've been able to talk to some young guys at our gym just about basic knowledge of mental health, right? So they understand what the feelings wheel is now, which is great, which is a huge step in the right direction. So I would say, yeah, just solution based and partnering with you guys. That's the most important because you create the solutions to be able to help people in need.
Well, you're bringing the conversation. You're bringing the real world. You're bringing your, dedication, your commitment, all of the work you put into the sport, and taking that now and applying it to the real world and to real people. There's nothing more powerful than that. Nothing. And you're now advising not only NFL teams, but executives, CEOs, corporations. Where do you see, Marcus, the biggest gaps between intention and action when it comes to supporting mental health?
I think we all have to see each other as the same, right? That we're no different. I think that's where the biggest gap is. And you might have the janitor who is dealing with something, but then you might have the owner who is dealing with something. But it's kind of in the same, ballpark. And if we continue to look at it as the same and we look at it in the lens of, hey, we're human together, I think that, we'll get somewhere in that space. So I think the gap is really just understanding that we're in this together. We're all human. You're not alone in this. Because a lot of us feel like, man, I may be the only one dealing with this, right? Whether it's, a mental health issue or anything like that. But I just think that understanding that we are together in all of this will help, executives peel back the layer and do what needs to be done.
And I can't help but think during this interview about the thousands of young children, young adults, all of the people that look up to you and have looked up to you and have said, hey, I want to be like Marcus. I want to be like Marcus. And now here you are, and you have a platform. You have the ability to impact lives, even if it were just one life.
Yeah.
How does that feel for you to be able to say, to share this message and to say, hey, you're not alone?
Yeah.
When people are actually listening and look so up to you.
It feels amazing, to be honest. And it's more freeing than anything that I've done in my whole entire life. I went first round, 26 overall, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. But being in this opportunity and being able to speak about what I've gone through and to be able to help others, that's the most freeing thing. The more you speak, the more you free yourself. And I try to tell others that. And a lot of times when you look at, the athletes that you idolize on TV, when they're truly open about their life and what they've dealt with, then people can relate to that. They can truly relate to that. And they may go get the help that they need. So your voice, no matter who you are, is super important because the person that is listening or the person on the outside may need to hear that. And so that's why I sit in the position. And that's why I do what I do, is because I can help someone need, just like you said, maybe it's one, and that's all we need.
And you know what? What strikes me is that it's authentic. It's authentic. And I also sense, like, despite all of the incredible success you've had, my gosh, you played in the NFL. That's the dream of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of kids across the country, including myself when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And you were in the NFL. At some point I realized, you know what? Maybe I take a different path, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's okay because, folks like yourself have showed me the way. And it's really about humanity, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about humanity and the platform that you're building here and that you've built and the lives that you're changing. And so in your experience, we're really talking about mentorship, right? We're talking about mentorship in sustaining mental wellness over time, particularly after moments of transition or failure. What role does that mentorship play in that, Marcus?
I think mentorship is one of the key factors into transitioning, into creating identity, because you almost have to have someone who's kind of walked the walk and been where you've been through, and then they could walk alongside you. And I find myself, guys who have played in the league or executives who want to transition into something else. They want to understand, okay, what does that life actually look like? And so a mentor is someone who can help you, guide you through that process, and actually hold you accountable through that process. So mentoring is truly important. And I would say that I'm kind of a mentor to my guy Wes right here, who's behind the camera, because he's 23 years of age, and there's a lot of guys who are that age who want to progress in life, who want to do better in life, and I stand in the gap for them as well. So yeah, mentorship is truly something that is super important, and I think all of us should, look to want to do something like that to help the next person get ahead.
That's right. And so we equate mentorship to a coach.
Yep.
When you were in the NFL, you had several coaches. I know many played a huge role in your life, like Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
And so isn't it the same?
Man, it's exactly the same, and I'll tell you why. Because Pete Carroll was there when I almost committed suicide myself, right? And I think Pete Carroll, because he took the coach lens off, he took almost the mentor lens off. He became dad, really. And I was around all my teammates, and I remember going into the room, and he was like, "Man, forget about this football stuff. Like, I just want to get you to help." And that meant the world to me, because before that, I was so afraid to speak. I was so afraid to talk about some of these issues, because I'm like, man, who is really going to care? Like, I got to go out there and go hit somebody on the football field, right? You know what I mean? And him doing that for me really gave me the courage to go get the help. And then he stayed with me pretty much the whole entire time, and continued to give me courage. And so, yeah, man, I know Pete Carroll is going to the Super Bowl. We know that. I mean, he's not going to the Super Bowl, but he was the coach with the Seahawks. And, I just think he was an amazing individual, such as my D-line coach, which is Clint Hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we all need a coach. That's the message here. And it's okay to continue having a coach. And it's, in fact, extremely important to have a coach throughout your life. And that's what you're describing. And for mental health, you need a coach sometimes. I mean, people need that support. And that's a positive thing. And it's really getting rid of the stigma around, first of all, having the conversation, but then second, having the impact and the ability to work with someone that you can trust and that will guide you and support you, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that's what you're doing. And so the American Psychiatric Association Foundation has and does and every day invests heavily in community-based programs and fellowships that support early career psychiatrists and mental health leaders. Marcus, from your perspective, how do organizations like the APAF help create the kind of long-term mental wellness infrastructure for our communities that actually desperately need this support?
Yeah, I think, the programs that they've created to be able to be in the workplace, but then also being able to go into the schools. Like, I think one thing that the APAF does a really good job of too is allowing us to be able to go into the schools and be really interactive with the kids and doing things that, allow them to see the real person. Obviously, I played in the NFL, but when they see me, they're like, "Oh man, like I get to talk to Marcus Smith." So they've put me in the arena to be able to pour into people that I wouldn't have normally been able to pour into, and that's kind of what it takes. Sometimes your athletes are the people who people look up to. So when they see them, it's like, man, you know what? I didn't think about that. Or I want to go get some help, or I want to go to therapy, or I want to do something like that. And I think that's kind of what it takes. Just continuing to be on, numerous platforms and to speak about it and the programs that they have set forward. I think that's the way to go.
And you mentioned something, the analogy of the man in the arena, like Tom Brady would talk about. You were that man in the arena, and to step out of that arena into another arena today, and to be able to help again so many across the planet, to help destigmatize mental health and to help people be the best they can possibly be. That's extraordinary, Marcus. How can folks learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, I think my Instagram is moneymark91. My company is called the Circle of M Incorporated. We partner with treatment facilities in Colorado and in California, and we help guys get into treatment, athletes get into treatment. So I sit as a bridge for them, peer support. I actually start school next week to become a social worker, my master's in social work. So I'm really trying to be in the field and actually be a part of the change. But yeah, you can find me on all the social media platforms, Marcus Smith II. To just continue to see the work that we're all doing and the people that we're partnering with, like you and the APF and the people that are here. So I appreciate the opportunity. Honestly, it's a true honor to continue to have the conversation.
Marcus Smith II, you are, my friend, changing the world.
Thank you, sir.
And you are leading the way. And I could not be more honored to be sitting with you here today and have never been more inspired than I am at this moment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.